Hello, coffee lovers, and welcome to the God Country Live Video Podcast. Every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And now, live from Seguin, Texas, and other places around the world, your host, Jose Roberto Alanis Jr.
Tickets.
I don't have any tickets. Chocolate.
Hello, coffee lovers. It's Jose, Third Day Coffee Seguin, and my good friend and brother in Christ, Ashley Williams of Legacy Farms Coffee, which is where all my coffee comes from. And we are here in a caboose in Oklahoma, just north of Oklahoma City, little community called Edmond, or actually this is, I think, is in Jones, Oklahoma. And we came up. We're going to spend the night here, go have some dinner later, and then we're going to take all the coffee out of his truck, put it in my truck, and then I'm going to go home. And he's going to do the same thing. So,
I think we have 900 pounds of green coffee and about 50 pounds of cherry tea, coffee cherry tea.
yeah, so we're going to be stocked up again. And if you're waiting on orders, I apologize. We will be getting caught up here next week and get everybody caught up. But we just thought we would jump on and do a live because, I mean, we're in a caboose. This caboose was built in 1925, and there's a picture of it on the icon for this episode, and there's a whole bunch of write up on the information on the place. But it's a beautiful little location. It's out of the city, and it's just really cool. It's got some little compartments to sleep in, and it's just something else. But anyway, so what's going on with the coffee these days, Ashley? Tell us where we're at.
Well, everything's going pretty good. We had a little more coffee this year than last, but the biggest thing is we had better cupping scores than we've ever had across the board. We had one small lot that was 82. Everything else was a minimum 84 and had a couple 88s. So the coffee itself is better quality. Some of that's we just get better processing every year, but it's good weather and good workers have a whole lot to do with it, and God and a whole lot of luck. So it's just a nice combination of all those things. But we have 20 bags more this year than we had last year. The year before that, we lost 60% of the crop, so we're still recovering from that. The downside of being something that's sort of part of a global community is the war on Russia tripled our fertilizer prices, and those have started to level off a little bit more. And so we're doing more organic fertilizings. It's a little more expensive to spray the organic fertilizer. Now it's cheaper than doing the other. So I enjoy using the organic stuff whenever we can. So we're pouring the fertilizer to it. We can put a whole lot of the organic on there without hurting anything versus the conventional fertilizers. We're limited. Our coffee farm is in a wildlife reserve, and both of our borders, we're on the high side, so both of our borders are rivers. So everybody in our community gets their water that passes through our farm. And the women are in the river washing clothes. They're taking drinking water back to the house. Kids are swimming in it. So we have to be conscious of what we do and how we do it. So we're very optimistic about the next year crossing the 200 bag limit, not limit, but that threshold. So we're hoping to do 225 bags next year, and getting more into the roasted business ourselves. So we're competing with this guy over here. Luckily, we're in different states, but
Yeah.
we're starting to sell a little more roasted coffee because that's what supports the farm and some of the projects on the farm. So but it's always good. This is like a vacation because
It is.
generally when we meet, it's swapping coffee and then we talk for a couple hours too late and he's back on the road again. So
Yeah. It
Eli
is
and I
nice.
drove up here and we got to take a couple hours off his trip, and he found this cool caboose. And it is amazing. It's just, and the motif is all train oriented, and it's got trains in it. So yeah, it's pretty cool, and it's literally with the weather we're having, it's cool. So it's 100 degrees outside, 65 or 70 inside. We're running the little air as hard as she'll go.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the roastery the other night, I had the air conditioner running all night long, and I started roasting at 5. I had the air conditioner setting on like 68 all night long because I knew as soon as I started roasting, and it's all I could do to keep it at 88 degrees while I was roasting. It just gets hot, and so it's nice to not have. I love my customers, and I hope you guys keep coming in. But it's nice to have a day when there's just nothing to happen. I can drink my little coffee cup, and that's sort of a running joke. If I ever turn on Prime Video or something and sit down and watch a video in the roastery, my wife walks in, and so it's like I've been doing that all day. But if I ever make a good cup of coffee and I'm like, man, this one really came out well, and as soon as my butt hits the chair, a customer walks through the door, and I can drink good coffee, bad coffee, great coffee, but I have to have hot coffee. If it's not hot, then that's where my snootiness comes in.
Mike, if you would just put in the comments, man, I see you're watching Michael Peterson, one of my white label customers, and how our volume is, because we were pegging out earlier, and now we're just barely hitting 2 green bars. So I just want to see if we need to move our mics closer to us or how the volume sounds. But Michael Peterson was a contestant on Forged in Fire, and does some incredible. I wish I had some of his work with me, but I don't. But he's definitely one of our newer customers, and I just want to make sure that anybody else who's listening, you can drop a comment in there and tell us. I think we're streaming across 4 platforms, and then I just shared it over to Legacy Farms Coffee too. So hopefully we'll get some people watching over there, and then of course we'll record everything, and you'll be able to listen to it on all the places that we have our podcast on. I think Ashley's everywhere we are, except I think you're still waiting for Apple. But,
Yeah.
Apple was always they were the hardest ones for me also. The volume's great. Okay.
I'm not on TikTok. As soon as my 2-piece bikini that's flattering comes in, I'm gonna start. It seems like everybody on TikTok's in a bikini. So, but no, we need to get us some knives made with the coffee chair. I had a guy make me ink pens a couple years ago out of some coffee trunks.
The tree itself.
Yeah, and I've got enough wood. I think we could make 4 knives. We get him to make us a couple knives with this coffee handles on them.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool.
I actually sent Mike some beans from back when I was roasting with the barbecue pit that didn't come out right, and I vacuum sealed them, and then I sent those to Mike, and so there may or may not be something in the works for a knife with coffee bean handle scales.
Epoxy.
Yeah, he's gonna make.
Awesome.
I think that's what he's doing with the epoxy.
Yeah, that grip would feel good.
Yeah, I think it would look pretty awesome. And then the fact that we're coffee guys, well, it just helps that much more. I'm trying to look because I'm seeing people that are comments, and I don't want to miss them. So I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just we've shared this to so many places, and I just want to make sure that that I've got them all, that I'm looking at them, because 2 comments, okay. And Michael is very low. Oh, Ashley. Ashley's low? He's low? Turn the one on the left all the way up. There you go.
And I could set a little closer also.
Yeah. Yeah, mine is closer to me than his is to him. And hey, Frank, how's the volume, Frank? Say something, Ashley.
Can you hear me now?
We just want to make sure. Thanks, George, for that comment there. We're just trying to get this. This is definitely impromptu. It's not the normal studio that we're both used to using, and so we're just trying to we're just trying to make it work and take advantage of the fact that we get to hang out for a little while and not. It's like you said earlier, we're usually just so in and out. And okay, good, thanks, Frank. And so we're just usually blowing and going, and it's hard to sit down and take some time and just visit and talk coffee. And I think y'all might have seen the meme I put up a few weeks ago about the two tip jars. One was a curse jar, cussing jar, and the other one was telling people about coffee when they didn't ask. And the cussing jar had a couple of pennies and nickels in the bottom of it, and the telling people about coffee when they didn't ask had a whole bunch of $100 bills in it. And so that's both of us, because if you give us 5 minutes, we'll talk your ear off about coffee. And I tell you what, we're going to do some stuff. Ashley and I have been talking since we got here and just catching up. And occasionally he has people that go down to the farm in Honduras to do projects. And so they've built this beautiful building that we've, been really blessed to just be a tiny little part of, that we've been able to donate to. And we want to do something where we get a group together to go down. And I think we talked about February. And we want to raise some money, and we go down there and do some work that helps the mission. So Ashley doesn't just sell coffee. The coffee's the profit side. But tell us a little bit about LF Missions and what you're doing down there in the community.
Well, we started out fairly small when we first started the farm. Before the reason we bought a farm, on my website, the legacyfarmscoffee.com, there's a story called Accidental Coffee Farmer. And we were actually buying land so that we could build a house with a garden and a little bit of land to buy a pig or a cow or something. So we started out doing that just once a year. But once we moved there, we realized that rather than build one person a nice house, you could repair 20 or 30 houses and get them Terry and things like that. So, just being at Santos's house, which Jose sells a lot of Santos's coffee. Well, it sells all of Santos's coffee. He buys the farm up every year. And so, one day I'm just looking around and, I'm like, where's your shower at? And he's like, well, we don't really have a shower. We have, we've got the toilet, and that's really all you need. And I'm like, well, you got 3 women in the house. I would think, it might be time to get a shower. And so I didn't have time to build it, but, he's perfectly able to build it. So we just brought out sand, concrete blocks, and cement and everything he needed. And he built it himself. So just doing those little projects, we started out. Then my wife's been on me for years to do a library, and it just wasn't feasible to do it on the farm. Everybody had to walk in there too far. We didn't have a lot of flat land. So we just finally cleared a piece of land up on the main road and just started building. And one thing led to another. It started out being a library, and then we made a building that was going to be a children's church. But after we hit about 30 kids, a lot of the kids, their parents were bringing them to church. And so they got to asking, can we come to it too? So then the preacher, he preaches at 2 different churches. And so he said, well, I'll find some elders and deacons from my church, bring them with me. And so they broke into a kid's classroom and an adult. And then we got more kids, and they broke into a young kids, second level of kids, and then adults. So now we're at the point where we're building another classroom for the kids. So the kids take over the library on Sunday. And then with this new classroom, we're going to put the little kids away from the church because they're extremely loud. The older I get, I think the louder they get. But now we've just built a little room. I've got a dental chair. I haven't finished everything, but we did our first dental clinic. For me, my passion more is the dental. It seems like it's the most painful of things that you can afford. And so we're hoping to we're going to start out with a dentist coming one day a month. Right now, we'll start out doing that, and they'll just do cleanings and starting a file on these kids. What we've done in the past is if somebody needs something done, we just send them to a dentist and pay for it. So now hopefully we can have a dentist come out for a day a month, and then by the end of the year, We're hoping that works into 2 or 3 days where she can stay. And the new children's classroom is going to have a miniature apartment. So it'll be, you can just easily convert it. So it'll have a mini fridge and a bathroom and a shower. And so she'll be able to stay for a couple of days, and then she'll do cleanings and evaluations. And then people can come back over the next 2 days, get their teeth fixed or pulled, or, just according to what condition they're in. And then a couple of times a year, we have a medical and pharmacy come out and generally see 120 to 130 people in a day, and they all get medicines. And so something like that can be done for about $2,000. We'll pay for the doctors, the nurses, the support staff, the trip out to the farm, and medicine for 120 to 130 people. So that's pretty cheap in the grand scheme of things. It's just in my mind, I can't do the math right now. But let's say really cheap. The dental stuff is a little more expensive because that's just a more expensive thing to do. The amalga and all those, the filling stuff, and the shots are fairly expensive. But I've got my sterilizing thing fixed. We got one of those, but it was broken. So the timer doesn't work. So somebody has to sit by it and shut it off however many minutes. Otherwise, it just keeps getting hotter and hotter. And but the dental chair, for the most part, everything works on that. And I've got almost all the pieces that we need. Right now, the dentist brings her own equipment. But by the end of the year, we'll be doing fillings. And, I like to repair the teeth if at all possible, especially on the older kids.
Yeah. I want to shout out real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but John Mitten, one of my pastors and one of my mentors, watching, and just been a great influence and a great friend. Been on the podcast several times. You might have seen him. He's definitely a repeat offender. He will continue to be a repeat offender. But anyway, back to what we're talking about. And like I said, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I wanted to shout out to John. He's watching live. Now I've shared this to everything. I've shared it to your page. I've shared it to all of my pages. I've shared it to the Patriot-owned business page out of Dallas. I've shared it to Ashley's Legacy Farms page. So if you're watching, and definitely if you're on Legacy Farms or one of those, share that out again. And the work that Ashley's been doing in Honduras is just absolutely amazing. Connie and I got to go and see firsthand, and I don't know how you even get started with that kind of thing. But didn't you and Julia meet while y'all were separately down there?
That's where she, right up the road is Oklahoma Christian University. She was going to Oklahoma Christian and getting her 4-year or getting her master's, I'm not sure which. And she was on a mission trip to Honduras. And she was down there for a year. And so I came in with a friend of mine who's an eye doctor, and he and I were putting on an eye clinic in Tegucigalpa. So it was all at a 4-year Bible college. And so that's where we sort of met. And I was there for like 10 days maybe. And then once I went back, she stayed. And then I popped back pretty quick. She went home for Christmas. I drove up to Kansas to meet her and, spend some time with her. And we just sort of went back and forth a few times. And probably a year and a half later, we got married. And we've been back and forth to Honduras a few times together. And then in 2014, I moved her and my 2 sons to Honduras, and we moved there full time. And we were there from 2014 until a little, right around COVID. When COVID hit pretty hard, we came back to the States until they opened the borders again. So it's been a crazy ride.
Where exactly is John's asking where the farm is?
If you go on like Google Maps, go to the satellite maps. If you put in Legacy Farms Coffee, Cerro Bueno is CerroBueno. It's Cerro Bueno, Honduras. It'll bring you right to the farm. And you'll see this big farm, and you'll see a small concrete building in the center. And then you'll see our drying patios actually have coffee and people on them on the satellite image. But we're sort of in the central western part of Honduras. We border El Salvador, real close to where we're at is one of the entrances to El Salvador.
Now, John says that their church is probably going to start working in Honduras as well. And so, John, if you ever want Ashley to come talk to you guys, Obviously, they've got a bunch of infrastructure already in place on the ground. They built the church last year, right? We started building it.
It's almost been 2 years since we started.
He started 2 years ago, uh, and when we were there, it was just the retaining wall was done, and the foundation they were working on. I think they had block up already, or no, it wasn't. It was just flat because you had they were just doing the retaining wall, and so now it's a building that they're using, and they've got a pastor that comes in.
Yeah, yeah, he comes in every Sunday, and then he comes. He does home study 2 nights a week, and so yeah, that's really taken off. We built a baptismal because he said he's been baptizing them in the water tank that we built for clean water storage. And so we just haven't advertised that a lot. And I didn't tell anybody in the house about it either. But when they come out, they're pure. They've been washed clean. So all of that sin goes clean down to our house. So
John, if you want to reach out, please. I mean, Ashley and I talk on a weekly basis, and he's got a great system set up, and if that's what y'all are interested in. But he can go to the church, to your church, and talk all about what they're doing down there, and it's just an incredible. I've been many places, but I've never been to a third world country before until we went to visit Ashley down in Honduras the first time, and it was eye opening. I mean, a lot of these people have a hole in the ground for a bathroom inside their hut. They didn't have. They all use adobe stoves, basically like an adobe stove. And one of the missions that Ashley started was putting an exhaust pipe out of the building, out of the little hut, the mud hut, because all of that soot was just staying, and a lot of the kids were having
upper respiratory infections.
So that's one of the missions that he does. Also, and you can drive around, and you'll see all these orange stack pipes, and those are the ones that they've put in to help get that dirty air out of the little. And one of the other things, and when I first met Ashley, he's like, "Oh, we're gonna go do some mission work." And I'm like, "Great." He's like, "We're gonna go put electricity in this house," and I'm like, I couldn't understand how that would help somebody, and I didn't see it as missionary work. I was like, well, it's kind of weird, but hey, whatever. But then when you get there and you go to somebody's house, and the whole house is made out of mud and sticks, and the kids can't read after dark because there's no light in the house, and they don't have any. When you put power in somebody's house, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal, and so that's to see those people, how excited they get about being able to turn a light on after dark. Some of those huts have been there for who knows, two generations.
Generational, yeah.
And they've never had, electricity, and they've never had their sewer. They fill the hole up and then they bucket it out and throw it down the side of the mountain. And so that's one of the other things Ashley's helped some of them do is, show them how to get it out of their house. And it's just, let's see what else they said. Got to go look when we're talking about. We led a young lady to the Lord in Honduras. Wow. All right. Mainland Honduras to share with her village. We're looking to go into her village. Awesome.
And if you know what the name of that town is, let me know. But even if you think about it as, we put electricity in her house, it was that time that we got to be there with her. And people ask why you're doing it. And that's that question you hope for. And then you can say, it says go into the world and preach the gospel. You can't preach it if you can't get somebody's attention and respect and be on that level. And I think it took us half a day, and we wired the whole house because it was just tiny. And we put it in a breaker box and everything.
Yeah.
And from that point, then you've got a chance of getting them to maybe come to your church, or maybe having their kids come to the library. And you got a few minutes of saying, a lot of kids didn't want to come to the library because they're like, well, that's just like school. They make us read books in school. I said, yeah, but you're going to get to read any book you want to, and you get to quit when you want to. And if it's not exciting, you get to go change and get another book. And, there's just a lot more to it than everybody gets this book and you have to study it and give me a report on it. No, you just read till you feel like quit reading. But from that, we had so much pressure to get the church started. And And they're, well, how many baptisms did you do this month? And I'm like, none. I did zero. And so I just said, we're not going to focus on the church. We're going to focus on the library. We're going to do kids fun days. We're going to do community projects where they come in and just play games and drink Pepsi. And from that, then that church just came on its own. And once the kids get to know us and get confidence in us and where they could talk to us and things like that. And then you can get them to, say, listen, we got a preacher coming by and we're going to have like a little church service and sing songs and play some games afterwards maybe. And then, next thing you know, you've got, a dozen kids showing up. And on fun days, one day we had 112 kids show up.
Whoa.
We invited 30 kids from the neighborhood. 112 showed up. I gave my cell phone to Santos and I said, tell your wife, call your wife, tell her to call every wife she knows, and we'll pay them whatever they want to get here right now, because I got 2 kids. That's all I need. I don't know what to do with 112. And so I went down to the house and got every game, every deck of cards, every puzzle, and just as fast as I could get them back up there. And I went and bought 16 3-liter Pepsis. And I think we bought, Eli and I went and got 200 bags of potato chips. And I'm like, well, that's my ministry right there.
I just want to clarify this so y'all understand what he's talking about. They don't buy Pepsi over there because they don't have the money for soft drinks or potato chips or anything. The average family of 4 or 5 makes about $1,400 a year. And so it's a real treat for them to have, some soda pop. And Ashley actually, keeps it there where the ladies sort the coffee and stuff. And I guess you use it as a prize too, don't you?
Yeah, we do it as a prize.
Yeah, for a bottle. John is saying that this little girl is from San Pedro Sula.
No, it's too hot. You can't do the Lord's work there. It is too hot. Oh my goodness, it's hot there. And you always want to be first at the red light, because that's one of the most dangerous cities in the world.
Is it really?
They come up and they're known for shooting you at the red light and taking your car.
Oh my goodness.
And so they'll just drive right on through the red light, and the next guy comes up and he drives. Nobody's going to.
Is that where y'all got attacked?
No, we got attacked in Tegucigalpa, and then again in La Paz, and then one time in Ceiba. So, that's my question.
It's not safe doing God's work, but it's fulfilling, and I know that, first when Connie and I went down there, and you see the people and you start interacting with them, and it was funny because when I was, my Spanish is pretty terrible. I didn't realize how much I remembered because I started talking to Anna, because Connie wanted to give her this hair clip, and I just started talking to her. And Connie says, I think I just witnessed you speaking in tongues, because I've never heard you speak Spanish. And so
you did really well, because you never mentioned you spoke any Spanish.
Yeah. And so, but I grew up around it. And so we, to go and just interact. And like Santos, he's worked for Ashley for many years.
My first worker.
Yeah, and I went down there and told, we said, Ashley, let's make a deal. Let's pay for this. Let me buy all his coffee. And he didn't understand why somebody would want to do that, because they're not used to anybody,
not helping them. No,
not helping
unless there's something in it for you.
Yeah, and he couldn't understand, but he doesn't know me. And he goes, well, he don't care. He wants to buy all your coffee, And so we've been very blessed over the last several years that, and I'll be brutally honest with you, conversations that we have all the time. The business is taking care of itself. It's not growing right now. We've got some things that we're trying to do. I've had a lot of health issues this year. And so what we're trying to do is get a truck on the road, coffee truck, and we're going to pay somebody to operate that part-time for us so that I don't have to worry about it, because one, I've got to get my health back on track. And then I've got to get my job sorted and make sure that that's all secure and that I'm good, so that we can continue to set the business up as a retirement plan. Because I would love to just go talk to people about coffee all day. I'm not there yet, but we're working on that. But part of the whole thing, and Connie says it all the time, and when we put stuff on our Facebook, on our our website and all that stuff. We made it very clear that it was what I started to do was never intended to be a business. We intended to share the gospel of Christ. That's our number one priority, and that was blessed with Ashley. And that's a podcast for another day. But the way we met was divine appointment, plain and simple.
The whole podcast by itself.
The whole
The
whole podcast could be how we met. And even though he's never roasted on a barbecue pit, he was able to help me dial in my roast when we were doing that back in that day. And now that we've got the machine, of course, there was a transition. But at some point, Ashley said, I don't know what you're doing, but I've been led to help you with whatever you're doing. And it's, we're sharing the gospel, but God blesses us with great coffee, something that we both love. And so it was just a bonus that we get to do the coffee. But it's just been absolutely amazing. Get with me. Okay. Absolutely.
Well, just for who is it that's in San Pedro Sula?
So John and his wife recently went on vacation in Honduras.
All right.
And they met a girl, and she prayed to receive the Lord. And now they want to work with her in that area. And so John said to get with him when I get back, and maybe we can, who knows? I mean, who knows what? There's nothing by chance. Nothing happens by chance.
But it never gets above 89 where we live, and it never gets below 55. And so
it's beautiful. It's in the mountains. The weather was amazing. Unfortunately, when we went, everything was in bloom, and it just about killed Connie's allergies. And so she was suffering the 3 or 4 days that we went. I wasn't, obviously.
We seemed to do okay. Yeah.
We did fine. Yeah. We had fun, and Connie did too. She really enjoyed.
She's a trooper. Yeah, because a lot of the food wasn't perfect, and so
and so she was. Of course, that's one of the things now that we understand and that we've been able to fix. As far as what we're eating. I didn't have so much with that kind of issues, but I had other stuff going on. Still do, so keep me in prayer for my health issues. Hopefully we'll get those sorted out by next month and get back on to getting healthy again and moving forward, because we're trying to go back in February. And so February is when it would be 3 years since we planted Santos, or 2 years.
I think that'll be his third year.
We
planted mature plants, and in the truck right now is some of that coffee that you planted.
Tell Connie it was because of unconfessed sin. You know what, John? You call Connie and tell her that. I'm not telling her that.
But she was a trooper, and I tortured her a little bit. And the day I told her we were going to pick that guy up.
Yeah, she freaked out.
You ask her about the hitchhiker that she wanted us to pick up.
Yeah.
But no, one of the things we're doing, even in the kids' library, we're trying to think of the future when groups are wanting to come. Because in years past, people want to come out the farm and we weren't set up. But like in the kids' library, every 6 feet from the wall is a chain. And so with those chains, we can hang a hammock and then put a military cot between it. So there's a place for everybody to sleep. All the bathrooms are set up with a shower inside of them. And so just on that project, there's 3 bathrooms and 3 showers. And so we can, and 2 of those have hot water in them. The other one's for Jose. But when people come, we can sleep, 20 to 30 people. And it's not, 5-star hotel, but it's going to be a decent place to sleep. And then all the coffee you can drink. And the important thing is we're out there just letting another culture get to know us and hoping they'll ask that question, why are you here? And things like that. It is a predominantly Catholic community, but it's the most open place I've ever been to. And it's and I'm not trying to beat up on any, it's a very washed down Catholic. It would be closer to, it's half and half Catholic Christian. It's sort of in between those. They do a lot of the Catholic things, but when it comes to practical stuff like birth control, they gave them permission to use birth control. because it's practical to do that there. You don't need to have 12 kids when you can't feed them. And the fathers and the cardinals and all that, realize that, and so give them permission to do that. But it's even Bahidio came one weekend and got a Bible, and he's every time the doors open at his Catholic church, he's there. Uh, but then he read the entire New Testament in the weekend and came back Monday asking me questions about it. And
awesome.
so, and I've never done that,
Yeah.
just sit the whole weekend and read the Bible. But he wanted to learn about it, and so it opens a lot of doors. And when you come, you may not be a lot of baptisms, but I've been with groups before, and they had the baptisms, and we go back to state, and there's no infrastructure set up to go back and visit. And so our guy, we just pay him to come out on Sunday, and then he got some more support on his own so that he could afford to come back Tuesday and Thursday. And so he does a Bible study, and then one day he just goes and meets new people one day, and the other day he does Bible studies with the different families that have been baptized. And so I think this year he's baptized maybe 9 or 10 people, but he won't baptize somebody on the first day. He's going to study with them a couple times, make sure they know not only what they're getting into, but what God expects of them once they do that, make that commitment. And so I think that's a big part of it. And I really appreciate that guy. And then in last month, he told us, he said, I've got some more support, or no, a couple months ago. And he said, I don't need a paycheck from you guys anymore. And so he said, that money that you're paying me, we'll figure out what to do with it. And so I'm not real sure what they do with it, but, starting to buy durable Bibles and durable, like hardback Bibles to leave there. We don't even have pews yet. We're working on getting pews. I haven't finished all the wiring is hodgepodge and very sketchy. And so, we're still not completely finished, but it's like with the library. The goal was to get 1,000 books, but I said, we get 500 books, we're going to open the library. And I'm sitting there, and we're putting the roof on, and people are asking about it. And I'm sitting there with 179 books I had in the house. And so let's just go ahead and open the library. I got thinking, if 179 people show up and they all read one book a day, well, that's 179 days before we have to buy another book.
Yeah.
So I said, let's open it up. And as soon as we did that, it wasn't a month, and we were starting to do some Bible studies. And then within 3 months after that, there was a full-blown kids church. And that's what my focus was on, the kids, giving them a safe place to play. They can go and study the Bible. Half the books we have in the library are Christian oriented. They're going to be books that you've heard of. And then we've got the Magic School Bus, Boxcar Kids. There, a lot of books that my kids love to read, and I'll let them help make the list. I said, well, if it keeps their attention, maybe it'll keep somebody else's. But I've been surprised how many adults will come and read a Boxcar Kid book.
Oh, wow.
And just because they're interesting. And I've had Eli read them to me. I'm like, no, I'm not going to read to you. You read to me, and they're very interesting books. And when you were little and you learn how to read, Eli's questioning me.
I'm laughing because Rhonda, our friend Rhonda Gonzalez, shout out to Joe Alanis and Rhonda. She's watching, a few other people, but Rhonda asked, tell me who again it was that was unconfessed sin. What did I miss? And
his wife.
John was making a funny, and he told me to tell Connie that she was sick in Honduras because of unconfessed sin. And I told him that I was not telling Connie that he was more than welcome to call her and tell her himself. And I know better than that. But you can listen to either one of us for just a little while. Hey, Robert Brazard, how you doing, brother? I hope you're feeling better. It's always God first with us. I mean, always. And you see my shirts, they say God Country Coffee. And we've got new coffee mugs that say, I need more coffee for people that need more Jesus. And so if you've never done that kind of work, I mean, I know, there's a bunch of people on here that as a group, we went down to the valley and we did some work down there and we reached some people. And it's the first time I'd ever seen anything like it because I'd never been around. that sort of thing. You know, I grew up Catholic, and I didn't do any mission trips growing up, and I didn't know anything about that. And I never really, you know, you're so, uh, our country, we're so narrow minded. We're just, you know, we can see down in front of our nose and that's it. And unless you've been in a situation where you've been somewhere and you really see the poverty, and you see the lack of sanitation, and you see the lack of Jesus being taught anywhere, uh, those are such massive things that I couldn't wrap my head around until we went to Honduras. And I was like, I just don't understand how have these people. I know John is actually, they were, when I met John, they were on vacation here in the States from their mission post in Madagascar. And so John learned how to speak Malagasy so he could share the gospel. And yeah, you should hear him when he starts. It's insane. And and anyway, they've got a guy that Radu, that you know, came to Christ, and now he's sharing the gospel down there in his communities. And that's what Ashley's doing in the Honduras, in the mountains. And it's just so amazing when you see, you know, just on a basic level, even if they don't understand, we understand the sanitation part. So when you teach somebody how to make a little trench going outside, and make a cesspool, cess tank, or some sort of a makeshift septic where that stuff is not inside the home with them, uh, to me that just resonates. It's like you're not just doing something good for somebody, you're changing their life. You know, you're changing their health. And then, you know, like Ashley said, if they ask you why you're doing this, then you get to, by the way, here, let me show you. You know, this is what God calls us to do, and this is how we do it. And so uh, we were just all on board from day one. When we, you know, even before we went down there, we were already on board. And if y'all know, all my coffees, all my medium roast is named Isaiah 52:7, and that's the one that talks about being the hands and feet of Jesus. And we named that coffee after Ashley because we feel, after we met them and after we met his family and what they're doing in that community, that they're literally acting as the hands and feet of Jesus down there. And so that's why, you know, and I've had people that have condemned me for using scripture on my coffee. That's never going to change. And our medium roast is always going to be named Isaiah 52:7, you know, after that particular fact. Radu has gone from 2 pastors before he got to Madagascar. Well, now they have 300 pastors, and Timothy is in their last training. Wow. So they've really exploded. And I think you're probably going to see the same results long term, you know, in the mountain region, you know, because they need hope.
Yeah, yeah, and they're very patient people. Everything there is, you know, wait, 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 and so they're patient, and they're very respectful, and they're open to learning things, and they'll sit and listen to you. Um, you know, if I were to have to door knock in the States, that would be like pulling my own teeth.
Yes.
But to go to somebody's house there and sit down and talk to them, it just seems very easy. I think most people here in the United States, if they're home on a Saturday, they're going to do some yard work and then want to be left alone. You know, that's probably most people's Saturdays. There, you know, they work Monday through Saturday. That's their work week is 6 days. So you go by there on a Sunday, that's their one day off. And then they invite you to come to their house, and they bring you coffee and bring you some bread or some kind of hard little cookie, and you can sit there with them. I very seldom will really go into depth about. I speak pretty good Spanish, but when it comes to salvation issues, I'm going to have a preacher with me. And that college will send preachers out. You know, if we ever need preachers, they'll send them out to us, and have somebody speak to them from their own country in their native tongue. That's one thing I don't want to make a mistake on. I can screw up a batch of coffee, and it's not the end of the world. But I want somebody that's been trained. You know, these students, once they've graduated, they spent 4 years just studying the Bible, and so that's their passion, and that's what and they know it's a job that's never going to make them a lot of money.
Right.
Because they're going to leave that college and go back into their own home, wherever they're from. And it's Central America, Cuba, Venezuela. There's from every country has been represented, Central South America. But lots of people from the CA5, which is Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And so from those 5 countries, anywhere we go, we know preachers in some of those towns. But they just do an incredible work, and they're dedicated and they're passionate about it, and they've learned how to do it to build a church. It's just they're trained to build the church and to make it strong and to make it solid and to not veer from the Bible and not to be of the world and not to bend the church just to get new people in. So I've seen a lot of solid churches. So, but yeah, we're already talking with the preacher about sort of where he thinks we ought to go next, because people will walk for maybe 2 miles, 3 miles. So you could have a church every 5 miles, every 7 miles, something like that. So we're already sort of talking about where the next one he thinks should go in, and we get this one finished up hopefully by the middle of next year. Like it'll be painted and everything will be finished. Then we'll have to think about that. But I want to get my dental clinic going before we start doing another church, and any of those things help bring people in. And you've got them sitting there waiting to go to the dentist office. There's generally a preacher there, either singing songs with them, or there's the women that are sitting around doing VBS and coloring books with them. And, they've got so many different options to talk to them about the Bible. So it's just so many different directions that you can bring in and talk to them and witness to them and things like that. And my ability is not the preaching and all that evangelizing. Mine's getting it all put together and putting the right people with the right people. And so I enjoy doing that. I think that's more my calling than preaching. I've had to preach a couple times, and generally it's like, hey, get up and talk. It's not, prepare something, I'll see you Thursday. It's, throw you in the fire kind of thing. And I sort of probably enjoy that more. If I have to think about it for a week, I'd probably say no.
Yeah.
But when you say I was in the men's prison, he's like, oh, and you're going to preach. And I'm like, when? He's like, as soon as that guy gets through singing the song. I'm like, well, that's awesome. Let's rock and roll. I don't even have my Bible. I'm in a prison. I didn't bring my Bible. I brought my pocket knife.
Yeah, right.
Stick. Yeah.
Body armor. John said he's going to bounce, but he said for us to get a hold of him, and we'll set up a meeting and get on the phone and talk about, how we can share the gospel down there. Because like I said, John, he's already got everything set up in that area, with all the connections to the right people. And, my Spanish has gotten better since the first time we went down there, because I knew that after 3 years we were going to go back for the harvest. And I thought, what a great story. Somebody who didn't know me, doesn't know why we're helping, but we were able to plant this little piece of land that he got. And if you could not just harvest coffee, but if you can, somehow have a hand in sharing the gospel, to me, that's like full circle, because that's what we're supposed to be doing for God. The coffee's extra. It's fun that he lets us do, but having a platform to be able to talk about Christ. And I bought a Bible in Spanish and I read it, and I got my book, and so I compare when I don't understand stuff, because not everything translates the way.
Oh, definitely not.
It's so. But that's like you said too. I don't want to be in a situation where I have an opportunity to planting seeds and harvesting souls. Yes, sir. I want to be able to, if I'm in a situation where I have an opportunity to share, I want to make sure that the right words come out, just like you said. I certainly don't want to mess that up, because we all know in a country where we all understand each other, plain English, it doesn't take much to say something that rubs somebody wrong, and then they don't ever want to hear about it again. And much less a country where there is a language barrier between me and them. And I certainly don't want to mess that up. So that's definitely something that I'm working on, my Spanish before we go back. And so, but John, I appreciate you. and I know that there's something beautiful that we can do together. Uh, like I said, we've been down there. Connie and I, been to Ashley's farm. We've been to the where they built the church, and after this is over, I'll put a bunch of links to when I share this. Um, there's a lot of pictures that Ashley's been taking from the very beginning, and I've got a lot of them. He's got a lot of them on Legacy Farms Coffee Facebook page and Instagram, and so you can go to Legacy Farms Coffee on Facebook, and you can look at some of the building transition as it's been being turned in from a side of a mountain into a foundation into a church. And then he's got some great pictures of the church area full of children and somebody reading the Bible to him. And so, uh, you know, it's just it doesn't get any better than that when you surrender your life and you're called to share the gospel. And so it's just been, so what are they saying here? People in our world today want things to help talk about. That's right. Coffee. Yeah. You have to have a hook almost. Um, and that's correct, Ron. Absolutely. And they have that in place already. So, it's just getting support is one of the biggest things because there are so much expense, and Ashley puts a lot of his money, even personal stuff, that just goes back into the farm, back into the church, and we do the same thing. We donate money. We try to donate to Ashley as much as we can. We donate to a couple of veterans groups as well. Uh, Sometimes I can't help people that ask me for help. This year we weren't able to do EOD, but last year we did a lot of stuff for EOD Warrior Foundation, and so even though it's something that we don't like to talk about, money is a big part of how you continue to do mission. And so if you pay all the bills for the month and you have $10 left, you're not going to do much mission with $10. And so, it's one of those things that's an uphill battle and a struggle, where you're constantly trying to raise money. And people see you coming after a while.
Yeah.
They do. They're like, oh, what do you want? This guy wants money. Don't answer the phone call. Don't answer his messages. Don't look at his Facebook because he's asking for money. But it's not like I'm lining my pockets. I mean, I know Ashley. We know each other pretty well. We've been to their home here in Kansas, and he's been to our home in Seguin. And we're not wealthy people, but we're willing to give what we do have, to further God's kingdom, and that's I think that's why we get along so well, because we're so like-minded, and because that's all that really matters. At the end of the day, I don't want to get to heaven's gates. We just did heaven's gates, hell's fire at church. I don't want to get to the gates of heaven and be asked, man, I gave you all this stuff to share my message, and why didn't why did you go buy that new car, and why did you take all those vacations instead of spending some time with me and with my people? And I don't want to have to answer that question, and I know Ashley didn't want to do it either. So um, we just want to do as much as we can to further that. And the bonus is it's amazing coffee.
And I never call myself a missionary because I feel like I have too much fun when I go down there. It's I enjoy being there. I consider that my home. We built that back in 2014. It's a little 900 square foot house. But somebody asked Eli when we came back from COVID, and they said, you enjoy being home? And he's like, well, my home is in Honduras. He spent more than half his life there. And so, it was just a different way of thinking about it. And once that becomes your home, then they become more your people. But what do you call the Santos coffee? You call it the Santos?
I call it Pinca Santos.
Pinca Santos.
Did you invite Bill?
Oh, Bill always hops on. Bill's
Okay.
a good guy. Yeah.
Here, let me. I'm gonna bring Bill on. He just popped in here. Let's see if we don't have video for you, Bill, but you're on the show.
He's not a very attractive man, and so generally I cut the video off on him. So.
We'll see if he.
Can you hear us, Bill?
if he gets his text squared away.
What I was going to say about Santos.
He's muted. Okay.
Can you hear us now?
You have to unmute yourself, Bill, if you can hear us. Because on our side, it's saying that you're muted.
With Finca Santos, all the money, like he makes a decent salary with us, and then for a couple of years you bought his coffee, and we've been trying to work with him to bankroll, to save that, not bankroll, but to sit on some of that money. We helped his wife start a little house in the it's a little store, but it's like they call them pulperias in the house. So she's got a little extra money coming in. And then she helps for 3 months during the selecting, and then she comes and picks coffee. So they've got a little more income than a lot of families. And he runs the farm, and so he makes, he'll make about twice what a regular worker makes. And then, so in doing that, he's got quite a bit of money in the bank, and so he's been trying to save up for another farm. So our farm bank has helped him finance 2 farms. And then a couple of times I've just put out on Facebook I've got 5 guys and they need fertilizer, and people start throwing in money for fertilizer, and that just makes him that much stronger. But last year, his wife decided she wanted to do a home church. And so he took all the money from his last year's crop and went and bought tin and wood and built this big lean-to, like 20 by 24, on the side of their house, and then bought stumps from some guy that was cutting down big trees. And so they got about 20 of those and pieces of wood. And so they got like 20 something people coming to their little $500 church, where our big concrete block church has about the same amount of people. But he started, and when he first started doing it, he didn't go to church himself. He said, well, I used to go to town, do the shopping when she does her church, and there was a preacher that came from another church, but he realized there was people in that area and there wasn't a church. So he found a family that would host him, and they just sort of hung around her house, and she had a little pulperia so they could, buy some drinks and stuff. And they just started doing a church, and then he took his own money and built a lean-to. And so now he's actually going to church, and we've had to, during harvest time, it's just sort of a draw. Everybody has to take a rotation. Somebody has to work Sunday. And so the Catholics do the church in the afternoon, and the Christians do church in the morning. So they rotate out, and, so he went from working both shifts because he didn't go to church. So now he just works the afternoon shift. So he goes to church in the morning, and and once they get done with that, they eat lunch, and then he comes into work and does an 8-hour shift on Sundays.
Wow.
But I've seen a big transformation in him, and the way he carries himself. It's been a lot different. And some of the things he talks about, and the fact that he's at the project a lot of times when we're having events and things like that. Bill, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, here we go. Yeah. And the Bill is in something, Missouri.
So, about right. Something.
What's the name of your town?
It's just north of Columbia.
It's Mobley.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I've been Googling you, trying to figure out how to get there this last week. Bill is a hobby roaster turned home roaster turned. Now he's starting to sell quite a bit of coffee every week. And so I guess you'll be getting your first bag of coffee next week or sometime in the near future.
Sometime in the near future. I'm excited.
And so, we're excited too. I mean, as excited as you are, I think. But, he just enjoys coffee and has learned, I guess you've got a couple different brew methods. And so you're doing fresh roast air coffee, and you're doing the Be More, the sort of a semi-drum, like a rotisserie kind of a way of roasting coffee. But yeah, you started out sort of selling at work, and so it's been
still my biggest customer is at work.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fun to get started and have something actually maybe give you a few dollars return on something you enjoy doing. That's my goal is to.
Yeah. I just don't want to live under the bridge in a cardboard box. But
no.
It's just one of those. We've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from Ashley, and Ashley's learned a lot just by cutting his teeth in this business that he didn't know anything about when he bought that piece of land. I mean, he wasn't looking to start a coffee business.
No.
And he was looking to build a house and give it to a family who needed it. And
because I didn't drink coffee when I bought the first coffee farm. I didn't even drink it at all. And so then I started drinking the truck stop cappuccino. I became pretty knowledgeable in that. How many pumps of vanilla really sends it over the top, you know? And well, that's a specialty grade right there. But and just going from there to, you know, when we were in Honduras just visiting one time, I got invited to a cupping. We actually had a coffee farm, but we were just picking the beans and selling them, you know, in the cherry. And we got invited to like a professional cupping with other importers there that were going to buy it. And, you know, the owner actually flew in a helicopter. You know, that's how big his mill was and how big his farm is. And his farm is like 8 times bigger than mine. And we've got a decent sized farm. And he literally flew in on a helicopter from his mill in San Pedro Sula. And he does that because it's so dangerous. He got shot 17 times and lived.
wow.
Yeah. And he died last year. He had COVID, got over COVID, and was leaving the hospital, tripped and fell and hit his head and died. Shot 17 times,
Wow.
went through COVID, and then he tripped and bumped his head and died. And I'm like, oh man, there was a plan for that dude somewhere.
Yeah. That's
But he'd been through his 9 lives, I guess. So it's time for
wow.
that cat to go.
That's
But
insane.
I feel like Bill's going to be on the farm sooner rather than later. We just get permission from everybody that's got to round up the money, get your wife on board, and all that. Those are things I have to do.
Yeah.
The wife on board is not the issue. I think it's more the money issue. It's anything else.
My son was trying to buy a house, and I said it's only a deal if it works out the way you want it to work out, and in his time. And the same thing, Santos lost a farm last year. He had a farm that was literally touching his farm, and he was embarrassed to come and ask me for the loan.
Yeah.
And no, it was 2 years ago, because I called you and you said I can come up with this much, and I called another guy. He's like, I can come up with this much. And so I said, go talk to him. And when he went and talked to him, somebody else had already bought it. And I said, it's got to be in his time. And since he started going to church, he completely accepted that. And it changed his attitude about it, because he was mad. He was mad at himself because he waited too long to ask me. And he still wouldn't ask me. He asked Anna, and then Anna came and asked me. And so I fussed at him a little bit. I said, you know, you've worked for me for 12 years. Talk to me, you know, and we can make things happen, you know. But he lost that farm, and so, you know, in this last year, I said, set on that money. When it happens, we got people that'll help, and when it happens again, we'll be ready for it. But God's got a farm for you. God's got a date on a ticket for Bill, and when Bill's time to go down there, we're going to have a blast. And
yes,
all the chickens will be fresh, and the tortillas will be hot. So.
Actually, Rhonda, we've tried growing coffee. A&M did a study, and they tried to grow coffee in Texas, and it just won't grow there. Yeah, I mean, you can grow the tree, but it won't fruit. It won't give you any coffee. And you can probably do one inside your house.
Yeah, the house works good,
and you'll get a couple of beans off of it. But
you got to have the altitude. The altitude makes the oxygen right, and all those things have to go together. And I've grown it a couple times, but
the temperature and you know, the climate down there where he's at is just incredible. I mean, it's and if you look at where all the coffee producing countries in the world are, they're all kind of situated above and below the equator. Even on the other side of the world, you know, in Africa and Papua New Guinea and all those places, they're not far from the equator. And so there's something about that area that is prime for, you know, for the coffee. And of course, in Honduras, you get the elevation. Some Mexico and some of those places, and we lost Bill. And so the anyway, that's what makes I think that's what makes the Honduran coffee better. There's Bill.
Bill's
And,
back.
Bill's back. And
You can sure click on screen, turn your video on so we can see. I made a comment that you weren't very attractive, so I didn't know if you heard that.
Thanks a lot.
We normally don't turn on Bill's video because he's not a very attractive man.
we don't want him to take away from us, you know.
Actually, I'm actually
roasting.
roasting.
Really go against this. You know, you got all this.
Listen, when Sam Elliott and Tom Selleck text you to tell you that they wish they had this stash when they were 50, it's a big deal. So, you know.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually roasting. That's why I've got everything muted. So.
Are you doing? You're doing on the fresh roast?
I am. Right, President. Remember, I was telling you I was having problems with that Razzo extension.
Yeah,
so
the extension.
I'm kind of hacking a bunch of coffee together that's old and not really drink worthy to see if I can get it to work properly. Because for some reason, it is just not wanting to circulate like I feel like it should, since it's an extension tube and I'm not losing any air from around it. So I'm just kind of troubleshooting. So that's why I've got everything muted, so you don't hear it and see me throwing stuff and the whole trying to figure out what's going on. So
yeah, I usually mute everything right before I throw a cussing tantrum. So,
so you understand.
I like the little fresh roast that I have. I've just got the standard tube on the 700, but I burn more coffee. My attention span is so bad that and you can't mess around on the fresh roast. It roasts so hot and so fast. And I've probably got my controls aren't set right, but I have to be sitting right on top of it. And it seems like there's always a distraction. And in Honduras, I do it after the workers leave or before they get there. It's the only way I can roast because I said, don't bother me. Like, well, I just have one question. I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I still love you, but
Yeah, I burnt so much coffee in the very beginning because I couldn't regulate heat when I started with just my open flame grill. And then when I went to the barbecue pit, eventually, Ashley and there's one group that we belonged to, we determined that my motor was rotating too slow. So we finally got that squared away. But it didn't take much to burn coffee in those days. In fact, that's what Michael Peterson, that's why he's got a bag full of our vacuum sealed coffee to make knife handle scales with, is because, back in those days, I wasn't, and I've not burned coffee since. I've gone from trying to do a light roast and it ends up as a medium, or doing a medium roast and forgetting about it and then it becoming a dark roast.
Yeah,
but
real quick.
I've not lost any coffee yet, and I'm learning to use the bells and whistles on the machine. I've learned to set the alarms.
Yeah,
and it helps, especially if we're trying to multitask. And I'm trying to do this outside my full-time regular gig, and so sometimes I'm not 100% focused on the task at hand, and it's easy to ruin some coffee. And something we hadn't really talked about today, but people don't understand, like most people in this country, the big companies, they over roast coffee. It's just roasted to the point where it doesn't taste like nothing because it's got a bunch of impurities, and then they put stuff in it to make it taste like coffee.
Yeah.
And people say, well, coffee makes me sick. Well, what are you drinking? If you're drinking junk that they've over roasted and put chemicals in to make it taste like coffee, I would expect for you to get sick with it. But that's the coffee that Ashley produces and roasts, and the coffee that I roast is far from that. And so, we both do flavored coffees because people demand it, but the regular stuff that we have, it doesn't have anything in it. It doesn't have any chemicals.
And even the flavored coffee, we go with the natural rather than the chemical, flavorings.
Right.
But even that is still specialty grade coffee when you start out with.
Right.
And so yesterday somebody ordered 5 pounds of pumpkin spice, and I just dipped it out of my washed Lempira and flavored it. So you're
Right.
starting out with a better grade coffee
Altogether.
versus the one guy that I've really learned a lot about how to flavor from. He buys just a real low grade Brazilian coffee, and he's paying like $2.75 or $2.50 a pound for that Brazilian coffee. And he marks it up somewhat, and then I could buy that if I wanted to. But and so that's what why take a better grade coffee and throw the flavoring in on it.
Yeah.
That's some people's thought, but my thought is if you start out with a higher grade coffee, you're going to end up with a higher grade product. Oh yeah, that does seem like it's leaping, but it seems like it's turning well though. See how when it jumps, it's like
It looks like it's moving.
Yeah, the bottom falls down.
You know
every
why
time.
that is because of this. I think I figured it out. If I don't put the top on it, I got to get the extension. I got a feeling, or it's not getting enough airflow to leave.
Okay, yeah, you can push all the air in, but if it doesn't have a place to go out, well, that
See,
makes
if I put
sense.
it on, it doesn't move as much if I put the top on. So.
Well, no, I just popped all that. That's just the top to the chafe collector, right?
Yeah, it is, but you'll notice if you take the top off that it makes a big difference. See here, I'll show you if I can get my stupid controls to work. Have you guys ever ran into where you turn the knob on the fresh roast and it keeps jumping back and forth between the two numbers? There. So there's 8 with the top on, and if I remove the top, you see it jumping farther?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, I think I'd take that sucker off and leave it off. It's just going to sort of blow chafe everywhere, but that's not going to be the end of the world.
No, I know. I'm going to try it. See, this is a 12 ounce. This is the first time I've done a 12 ounce roast on here. So we'll see how it goes.
What is a normal fresh roast without the extension? How much will it roast normally?
Without like the factory extension, I've not done it without the factory. I think it's supposed to be 6 ounces. I think is it safe or something like that. I think it's maybe 6 or 8 ounces. And the factory, which I have right here, the factory is 10 ounces, I think, and then this is supposed to make it 12. But I haven't been able to do 12 because I get these nice little snippets. All the burnt stuff that gets stuck on the bottom and it won't go anywhere. So
Yeah.
we'll
Well,
see how this one comes out. Live on Legacy Farms.
Does it finish out at the same time when you're using the tube with that extra coffee, or does it extend your roast time?
If I do a 10 ounce, 275 grams is my typical time. I usually get first crack around 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes, and then usually I'll try to run it to about 10 to get that medium roast level, and I'll usually come out about 13.5% weight loss, give or take. If it's Sumatra, I've noticed that same time frame, I get like 16% weight loss at that same time frame. So we're turning. Look at that. See?
Yeah, it's frustrating sometimes, but it's just take good notes and you'll get it figured out. But you'll probably go through a lot of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to a lot of Coffee Bean Corral coffee before I met Ashley, and it was not cheap. And Amazon sells some green coffee, not very good stuff, but it's there. But all stuff to play with anyway.
Yeah, it's just that there's just a learning curve in it that you just have to figure out, and it just comes with time. And stick with those sites, the fresh roast sites. They'll help you out quite a bit.
That's for sure. My cousin Lucy is watching. What's up? I just talked to your mom last week. Eye-opening conversation. Ask her about it. You'll laugh. And we've got Dave Siemens. Is that one of your
I'm not sure.
followers or friends? I don't know. And then one of my cousins, Virginia. A bunch of people just bouncing in and out. And we're probably gonna put a stop to this thing here pretty soon because I haven't eaten since breakfast this morning. Not that it looks like I need to eat, but I do. And we're probably gonna go get some grub somewhere here close by.
Sounds like a good plan.
But I love the conversation, the way it went today, and I'll be, we'll be downloading this, and Ash will have it for his sites, and I'll do the video as well, so that he can put it on his YouTube. I'll probably this evening when we get done, I'll put it in the links. We still have a fundraiser that's open for Legacy Farms for the mission of the church down in Honduras. And it's got some pictures, updated pictures. And while we're together tonight, I'll get some more pictures from him, more updated pictures, so we can update that fundraiser. And I suspect that with John getting on board, and the people that are in my church as well, maybe we'll put together a really good mission trip, with some donations and some physical labor donations down, on site. I will tell you that if you don't already have your passport, do it right now if you plan to travel anytime soon, because without going to one of the places where you can do an expedited, you're looking at 6 months minimum.
Really?
Yeah, to get it redone. And so Connie and I are already so I think we're going to just try to go to Houston or Dallas and do the expedite to get ours done. But I think we're going to try to go down in February. Between February and May, right, is the harvest?
No,
or February?
January and March.
January and March.
So February is right in the middle, but it would be amazing, and women are always welcome, but to do a men's trip, like a men's retreat down there, and I'd like to do something like that on a yearly basis, to where we've got time where we could do men's Bible studies at night and do work projects in the day, and it'd be fun to start a men's retreat, a yearly kind of thing.
Yeah, that would. I know that. What's up, Jimmy? And Jimmy's another believer in Christ, and he's doing great work in his neck of the woods up in Philadelphia, and he does a great mission during Thanksgiving. And so, but to get a bunch of guys together, I know I've got some guys already who would jump all over a men's trip to go down and the Bible talks a lot about men. Iron sharpens iron, and to go down as a group and go do things, you'd be surprised how much you can accomplish, how simple tasks are down there. It's just time, money, and people. And so if we could put all that together, it helps the mission of sharing the gospel, which is what we're all supposed to be doing. But I will tell you that Connie really enjoyed it, and she's already been in my ear about, hey, when we going back? And so we were blessed with coffee sales to be able to plant one of the farms that Santos got, and we were able to buy all the plants that he needed to plant that. And so if we go back first part of next year, we'll be helping harvest the same plot that we helped plant. And and then if we can do some gospel work in between there, to me, that's the whole ticket. I mean,
well, definitely the project would need to be Santos's church rather than ours.
Yeah.
Get his, just doing nothing but building benches and things like that. Put a few sides on for rainy days.
Yeah.
Right now it's just a roof, but it would be definitely a blessing because you planting his farm helped him plant a church.
Yeah.
It's helped his wife plant a church, which helped plant a seed in his heart, and now got him to go into church. And so,
like John said earlier, it's planting seeds and harvesting souls.
Yeah.
And
I've seen a huge change in him. I raise your hand if I'm not lying. I hated Santos. We butted heads all the time. And there was one day they were like, he's going to quit. I'm like, more power to him. Wow. And we just butted heads. And it was just all of a sudden there was just both our hearts were open at the same time, me to listen and him to speak, and then me to speak and him to listen. And because they literally, when I fired the farm boss one time for a major problem, they were just all ready to go because there was conflict between me and the boss, and there was conflict at the farm. And I was like, let him go. But then when Bahidio was going to leave, and then Anna's like, well, you're going to leave me here by myself. And we sat down, and if it hadn't been for the fact that he had started going to church, and because Eli and I had the tickets to fly out the next day, and I said, Eli, here's the phone, call mama, extend our tickets. Everybody's fixed to quit, and just being able to sit down and him having that open heart. And now, man, it's just such a difference. And I enjoy so working with him. I still helped him buy a farm, even though I hated the guy, because all we did is just argue and butt heads, and he hated me. And then come to find out, it was simply, he wouldn't talk to me and I didn't talk to him, and he needed a few things changed at work, and we accommodated each other just because as brothers, you can go and talk to each other where you can't and if you're in the world and stuff, there's a hierarchy in the way they live their lives.
The Bible says not to be unequally yoked.
Yeah. And so once he realized that we were, we were even though I'm the one that signs the check, so to speak, and just, we were brothers, and we could get in there and talk. And so like with Bill, can you hear Bill? Can you talk?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Whose farm did you buy this year? Wasn't it Santiago?
Yep, Santiago and
Melvin. So he's outdoing you, man. You got one farm, he's got two. But Melvin, I think his farm produced 17 pounds
Really?
of coffee. And then Santiago had 40 something like that. But it's a start. And
It is.
but Santiago couldn't sell us his coffee because he owed his soul to the company store. He was in debt with the mill, and he owed them 48% interest a year, because that's the standard interest rate.
Wow.
And he has to pay it in coffee. He can't pay the debt off. So we spent last year giving him fertilizer, got him out of debt. So this coming season, he'll have a couple 100 pounds of coffee. By then, Bill will be ready to buy more coffee, and it all is going to work together in time. And what Bill doesn't buy, I'll buy,
Yep.
And so it's just working out, because we helped Santiago. We just helped Santiago's brother, Pedro, buy a farm. So the bank on my farm financed him to buy a farm 2 weeks ago. And so he's right now planting that farm. And so we made him a loan to buy plants, because we don't have any plants in the nursery right now. And we made him the loan to buy that farm. So when I go back in September, I'll get to visit the farm, see how big it is. And, so yeah, it's just, it's everybody's linked together, man. It's a
blessing.
It's just supposed to work out a certain way. And so next thing you know, Bill will be a farm supporting mogul and selling the coffee all over the country. And I'll go to work for Bill gladly.
Yeah, we're all trying to get to that point. I know, me personally, Ashley and I talk again. He's not just a friend, and he's a mentor, and beside the fact that we buy coffee from him, but the thing with Santos has been amazing, because he's got really good coffee. He's putting some good coffee up. And I think the first year it was just like 3/4 of a bag. It wasn't even
there wasn't
a
anything
full bag. And then I think we're getting 400 pounds this year.
At least that much. I don't know. There's
Something
3
like
full
that.
bags out there.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's just been an absolute blessing, that he's been able to continue to grow like that. Why is that coffee layout? What if I don't want to do? Oh, maybe I just click on this other button. And there's a whole bunch of people there. People just keep tuning in, and we got Vin, my buddy from Dallas. I went to high school with Vinny, and Rodney Brown and Nick Richardson and Melody Hanson, and people just keep coming in and out. You go back and watch from the beginning, because we're probably going to go eat here pretty quick, because big guy, you can't keep him from food all day, and I'm not talking about Ashley. So he's feeding his muscles, and I don't know what I'm feeding, but no, actually Connie and I have been doing really great, and Connie's lost a bunch of weight. She didn't have to lose, but my wife is looking amazing, and I've lost a little bit of weight since we transitioned from store-bought bread to what we're milling our own wheat, and that's just been God just keeps blessing us with people. We met one of our friends, Carrie from church, sent me a bunch of information when I was really sick, and kind of got us on it. Then we found out another lady from church was already doing that, and yesterday we were supposed to do a podcast with all the ladies, and I was going to interview them, but I woke up feeling really awful yesterday, and I just couldn't seem to shake it. I had some blood pressure issues, and got everything under control. Woke up, rested, and got in the truck and drove to a caboose in Jones, Oklahoma. We're actually in the community of Edmond, which is just on the northern part of Oklahoma City, and I think we're going to go to Guthrie tomorrow and then go home. But yeah, just I'll be putting some links in for the mission part of this, and then some updated, pictures and things, so you can actually see what's going on down there. But it's been life changing for me and Connie, I know. And I mean, I don't even think I think about how much it's changed us, but I never stop to think how much Santo's life has changed. He's got somebody buying his coffee.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how well just the way his house looks. One day he said I need to take off a couple of days, and I'm like, oh great, and because it was right in the middle of harvest, I'm like, why? And he's like, my house fell over, and I'm like, well, now I feel bad. So I said, what happened? He said, well, it rained a lot and the mud started washing off the sticks and the wind blew and the house fell over. I'm like, well, crap. So no, let's go see how we can, what we're going to do about this. And I went over and they'd reset it. They'd put big old sticks to keep it from actually hitting the ground. And they were still living in it because what is the other option? There's not a hotel, and so.
Yeah.
And so I said, man, we've got to figure this out. And I said, if nothing else, we can just if we set a post on this corner and this corner, we can tie it back together. We can frame that and keep it from falling over again. But it's still, and I'm not trying to judge, it's still a pretty crappy house, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
And so I said, there's got to be some kind of infusion of blocks, and some kind of foundation done. And so I think the original house doesn't exist anymore because this was 6 or 7 years ago. The last time I went in there, I would have sworn, and I actually asked her, I said, when did y'all put concrete in here? He said, that's not concrete. She has swept the dirt so much that it is slick as concrete. She said, yeah, Santos keeps leveling it. And then we put some water down and I just sweep it. And it's like concrete. It's level and looks like a concrete floor. And I'm like, well, that'll save them a little money. But you could drop your tortilla in the floor, and I promise you, I'd pick it up and eat it. That is one of the cleanest houses I've ever been into. She keeps that house because she's proud of it. One year he built her a kitchen outside the house. And last year we did the bathroom, or we did the shower. He did the bathroom. I mean, it's a nice little house now. And one year for his Christmas bonus, we ran water to the house. The last Christmas bonus he got was electricity in the house. And we weren't able to do that. We had to pay somebody to do it. But, just to see the changes in his life. And of course, when we do electricity, we buy a blender. So that house that you and I wired, I came back later on, and they have to come and take a little course from Anna, and she shows them how to use a blender.
Okay.
Because you think it's simple, but if you've never had anything to plug in, you don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really changed his life, and it's changed him. Who cares about how much better he's living. He's living a better life. It's not just his house is nice. It's changed his life in so many ways, and it's touched us. And I'm embarrassed how much I disliked him. Oh yeah, this house right now where he's refurbished. That's Bahidio's house. I'm
gonna pull some of these pictures up because we keep talking about it, but you have no idea until you see it. And I'm gonna show you exactly what we're talking about because it's it's just, let's see, that's us.
Well, while you're getting it, guys, 15% weight loss on that one, and I still got like 10 to 15 beans that just burnt to a crisp.
Well,
on the
that's not
bottom.
bad
So
weight loss as far as profit side goes. And I'd throw the black beans away, and as long as it tastes good, I'd call it good.
yeah, I don't know if you can see them or not, but
I can see them pretty good.
I mean, you got some
That's not
beans
my
that are
coffee.
just, well, I mean, it's burnt. Those are burnt pretty dang bad. So I don't know. They're sticking to the bottom. I don't know what it is. There's just 10 of them that stick in the bottom, like almost like they're getting under an edge or something and just not coming up. I don't know. So, and I think
I,
I might just have to tailor my amount of beans down. That's all there is to it. Possibly. I
yeah,
mean, I did 12 ounces. So
I'd drop it back to 10 and give it another try. And I've got some 75-point coffee I'll bring with me when I come. You can have some of that to try and experiment on.
yeah, I think I'm getting to it, but I don't know.
But go ahead and get with that flavor company I gave you and ask
Yeah.
for some samples. They'll send you some
Yeah, I
free
need to
samples.
get some because I've got a lot of people, or not a lot of people. I've got a few people asking me for pumpkin spice, and I think that would probably like really boost my at work business because I've had like 4 or 5 people say they're tired of waiting in line at Starbucks for some pumpkin spice. So I was like, no problem, I can help you out with that.
Well, they'll give you a sample pumpkin spice, pumpkin latte. Eli's come up with a blend called Pumpkin Surprise? Pumpkin Party. So we'll give you Eli's recipe. Is it all right if I give that to Mr. Bill?
Yeah.
We'll share that recipe with you.
All right, cool.
Pumpkin Party. Who could say no to that?
Right, exactly. So I was thinking, like, all right.
But this can you see the picture, Bill?
Yeah.
That's Bahidio's house, and the bathroom just went ahead and fell down on its own. But now, when you look at it, he's re-adobe'd that. You see the window; he just knocked out a block and made a window. But now he's resurfaced that, and now that's his barber shop on the inside of his house.
He cut my hair in the mountains in Honduras, and we don't want to look at me.
Oh, is that you flexing?
No, that's when they broke my arm, and
oh, okay.
Back when hazing was
approved,
pretty much
method.
an approved method of that's champ. Man, we're going the wrong direction here. Let's see, there it is. Okay, so this is Santos.
Right there's where his shower is now.
Yeah, and you can see there he's standing on rock, like it's just rock.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a big drop off right behind him.
Yeah, that's where the septic tank is now.
Yeah. And so, he couldn't be. We're the only ones carrying his coffee for a while, and I hope it stays that way because, and this is his place that we got to plant. And I will tell you that I didn't sit there all day long planting coffee. Okay, I planted one plant, and that's it right there. And we made it look like I was doing something. But I did plant that tree. And had I known that 15 feet behind me was a 2,000-foot drop, there's a good chance that I wouldn't have taken my big rear end down there. But they were very accommodating with me and my size, and they kind of walked me in a zigzag pattern where they run straight down. And they can grab a piece of that grass right there and hold it and use it as a pivot point and stop and on a dime. But me, I would take half the mountain with me. And and this is Anna on her farm. And she sends a lot of coffee up since you met Ashley. She sends a lot of coffee. I bought a bag. Yeah. Yep, I've got a bag. And so that's on the truck right now. That's Mama Bear on top of where Santos farm is. And it's really hard to tell, but we're way beneath her feet right there where we were planting that coffee.
Yeah, it's a little rough getting into his place. And even drive down that road is pretty.
This is a little flower that comes on the cherry. And this is where the ladies from Ashley, they separate the coffee right there. So a lot of places when you buy coffee, if you don't have a setup like this, all the impurities and everything that are in there, these ladies hand select them out. So if they've got insect damage or little pebbles or whatever, they get rid of all that stuff before they bag it and send it to us. So that's just one other reason that our coffee is a higher quality, aside from the fact that it cups higher score. So I think that's it for. Oh, that's
your swear jar.
that's my swear jar. There it is, right there.
And my problem is both my jars got the same amount of money in them.
But let me. I think that automatically killed it. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to show you some of the stuff that we've been talking about, some of the mission, and I'd have to go into a different folder, which I don't exactly know how to do quickly. So I'll just share those later. But with all the pictures from the church that started a couple years back, and like I said, when we were there, it'll be 3 years this coming March, I think. They were just putting the retaining wall in, and now they've got a functioning business, not a business, but a functioning building where they're having church and doing all kinds of stuff. So anyway, we've been on this thing forever, and I think we're going to bow out and go get some food before Eli starts throwing stuff at us from the background. But as always, man, I appreciate everybody tuning in. I will be posting stuff on our site and on Ashley's as well about supporting the mission, and because that's really, at the end of the day, that's just what it all boils down to, is the mission. Share the gospel and support that any way we can, and so that's what we want to continue to do. And like I always end my podcast with, I always say, treat each other the way God intended us to treat one another, with love, kindness, and respect. And until next week, God bless you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for joining in.